shifted the context, and now something became thinkable. It became thinkable. The task of the creative person is how you continue to think things that are unthinkable to other people while keeping them thinkable to you. For me, that's the toughest task. I do talk to people all over the place, and you hear all kinds of bits and pieces, and obviously I'm the kind who puts things together. And then you have a domain of knowledge in which you find you don't share the space that the other people around you seem to share, because you're speaking from presuppositions and point of view that knows things that they don't know. So one of the tasks of creativity and humanity is to, how do you know what you know? Continue to get what you need to get, and yet not alienate the people around you because they think you're an arrogant prick. You know, it's very, very challenging. But we simply have to accept eccentricity as part of our destiny. I have a lot more, but I think that's probably enough. I mean, I'll be around. All right, you guys stayed, so 2 free books. All right, as soon as the rest of you have bought these other 10 books, I'm going to give away. All right, if somebody wants to buy one, I'll sign it. It's $20. See me after the talk. What these are the columns I referred to, about 150 of them. Singers brought them out. They were collected. They're the kinds of insights I've been sharing. You know how I go from one thing to another? Well, that's what this is. Kind of go from one thing to another. And they're collected over 8 years, and they're insights into the way transforming technologies have altered identity, intelligence, geopolitical structures, psychology, spirituality, goddamn everything. Okay, who wants one?
You better buy it.
You asked all those questions, so you get one. Now, you walked forward and made yourself very prominent, so you don't get one. You're a girl, and we're weak for girls. Okay. Anybody want to ask any other questions before we go? This is around 9:30. Yeah. Yes.
How does he know that you can characterize it as an improvement?
Because it's genuinely anomalous in terms of what our technologies are capable of doing. In other words, the question I asked this guy, because I'm always looking for the other angle. You're skeptical, right? You're agnostic. And one of the answers that you get is, yeah, your friend may have thought that. They may have seen something, silver disk, 15 feet across, came up 30 feet across, came out of nowhere, circled the plane, paced them for a while, and took off at a speed they couldn't match. Maybe he wasn't cleared. We have all kinds of black projects. Ed Hill in '78, when I was there, you'd see this stuff fly in. He's, and I asked Bob and other people, what was that? And they said, what was what? Tell me you can't keep a secret. It was stealth, and we didn't know what it was. We just knew we'd seen something weird. The question is, if we had that kind of technology that has the aerodynamic capabilities that have now been observed for more than 50 years all over the world, according to reports that agree on the small details, including on radar photographed, and, Edgar Mitchell, do you know Edgar Mitchell? You know that name? This is me growing up, I guess. Apollo 14, walked on the moon, had a life-changing experience coming back from the moon, saw the unity of all things, suddenly saw that everything was connected. He has spent the rest of his life trying to communicate his vision using the language of quantum physics to people who think that things are separate and there are boundaries around things, and non-local consciousness is just something we made up. Well, Edgar Mitchell has access to people, and he told me he went to the intelligence people who report to the Joint Chiefs of Staff. And he said, I don't want the details. I just want to know, is there a program to manage how we are handling the reality of the phenomena? And the guy went away, he came back, he said next week, and he said, this is all I'm going to tell you. Yes, but that's all you're going to get. Now don't bring it up again. We're handling it. Now the question is, did we have that kind of technology? Could we do those kinds of things that were demonstrated by these vehicles, and yet we had hundreds of pilots shot down, tortured, and killed in Vietnam at the same time, 40 years ago? Well, we will lose lives. We will sacrifice people to secrets that must be kept, but not on that scale. And we don't have anything like that today. And what that guy told me just a couple days ago, I'm just telling you, I hear it again and again. All I can tell you is what people tell me. He said, I've talked to lots of people in the Air Force. We've shared lots of stories like that. And I ask, were any of them, because some of them, tell you a couple, you won't go to sleep. So I don't want to do that. But these are just moving lights, right? That doesn't scare anybody. Nothing has come out of it. Right. Like you never stop your car and get out at the gas station. Maybe they just use our lakes, to replenish their pure water. They need the heavy hydrogen. There's a lot of activity around lakes. I've got stories from Wisconsin that would wool your ears from people who are walking out in the woods one night. And it's just, this is over 25 years, so I'm being light with it now. But it's the accumulation of reports over 50 years that agree in the small details. That what's funny here in our culture is not kind of funny everywhere, so 40s, 50s, 60s maybe, but 50 years all over the world. And it lasted for 50 years, and it continues to last, and they agree in the small details. This is suggestive that we have a genuine phenomena, and I always leave it at that. I don't know what it is. I don't want to leap to provide the content, but because it is intelligently piloted craft, a friend at NASA has documented 3,500 commercial pilot reports and fighter pilot reports, 3,500 reports.
And those are the ones who weren't afraid to talk about it.
Right, that's right. So it's suggestive. It's what it suggests as a logical, or as the guy who did the Project Blue Book thing said before they retracted his book and made him rewrite the ending. He said the least unlikely hypothesis is the extraterrestrial hypothesis. This was 1956. So it's just a hypothesis. And we go to Mars, right? If you're a farmer on Mars, you look up, you see a great big beach ball fall out of the sky, bounces, right? Towels come off. See, what the hell is that beach ball? Little R2-D2, primitive, slow, dumb, comes out, bumps up against the rock, drills. Hey, wait a minute. It's my rock. They love rocks. Drills the rock, doesn't care what the farmer says. You watch it, goes down into the crater. 6 months later, comes up out of the crater. Right? Goes and tells his neighbor, he says, God damn this thing. That back 40 of mine that I was plowing, it's a beach ball come out of the sky, little R2-D2 came out, went down the crater, stayed in the crater 6 months. Why would anybody stay in the crater 6 months? Maybe he's slow. Oh yeah, slow. He could come out of the sky in a beach ball, but it took him 6 months to get through the crater. Think about it. Is there evidence for UFOs on Mars? Obviously, extraterrestrial planetary vehicle that do things no Martian can do have landed and begun a scientific experiment, surveillance, reconnaissance, and exploration with the intention of colonizing the planet for us. You don't find that preposterous. But in 1956, the Royal Astronomer in England said space travel is, quote, utter bilge. 57, Sputnik went up. What I'm saying is the thinkable, let me just tell you, just put this in your pipe and smoke it sometime. Robert Galvin, head of Motorola, it's just great, 40 years, breakthrough ideas, strange ideas meetings, in order to let people brainstorm all the weirdest shit they could. You talk about creativity. They asked him at the end of his career what ideas were breakthrough ideas, how you could recognize them. And he said, thinking about it, he said, every idea that turned out to be a breakthrough idea began its life as an opinion of one. Someone said it on the edges and nobody heard it. And if they said it again, everybody laughed. And if they said it again, they laughed with derision. And if they said it again, they tried to attack the person, destroy them, ruin their reputation. And then finally it arrived where it always arrives. Not only does everybody believe it, but they've always believed it all along. And we call it consensus reality. By the time it's the center of a new consensus, new truth is arriving at the edge. The truth is always at the edge. So the point is, George Bernard Shaw said, all great truth begins as blasphemy. It is an assertion contrary to orthodoxy and what the common people believe is obviously true, self-evident and commonsensical. Now, it doesn't mean every crazy idea is a breakthrough idea. It does mean that every breakthrough idea sounds crazy because it doesn't fit the way normal people, not you guys, those guys out there in the swimming pool, the way normal people think about the world. Well, they're out there doing that. Splash, 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 splash. We're in here thinking deep thoughts, right? This is not normal at 10 o'clock on a Friday night. Right? You know that, right? You should be seeing Twitch or Fletch or whatever the goddamn movie at the multiplex is this week. You know, that mind-numbing stuff. So that's all I can say is that the evidence seems to suggest that hypothesis.
Okay, I'm not suggesting that there are or are not aliens. Assuming that there are aliens and they are somehow, your friend is somehow intelligent,
Uh-huh.
that is a strange use of, that's a strange way to put it, intrude. It does sort of...
Well, change the word. I mean, you can say it any way you want. He's not God. He was just saying his conclusion is that what we're seeing is evidence of a tangency to our civilization from another civilization.
Okay, but is there evidence from what you're saying? Are there parts of the story that you're not saying that would justify the word usage?
Absolutely. I want you to sleep tonight. I mean, it's a hacker con. We don't want people running through the hallways screaming. No, I mean, we can play with this. I don't mean to distract it, but that's what happens when you get into this stuff. See, what's really called forth is anxiety, animating the cognitive function, saying, what the hell? What the hell? I mean, what he's doing is exactly what we're all doing. It's an example of our mind made visible. You're trying to figure out what is the language to use to describe that which is impossible to describe in the prior terms that we've been using. You know, and it's been validated by history over and over. 200 years ago, you go to England, City of London, Bank of England, and say, where's the center? They say, right here. Because British Empire, sun never set. Our power was just in ascendancy. And the Bank of London is the engine that makes the economy of the British Empire sing. But anyone who had eyes to see would see the American century. All out of the edges, nobody could see that the colonies, it was unthinkable that the colonies would be the new center. 200 years later, the American century came, and it looks like it probably went. You know? So when you ask people, where's the center now? You know, remember that picture of the Earth from the moon? Everybody said, oh my God, we can see the Earth whole. The Earth is, except it's already obsolete. By the time you get an image of the Earth whole, it's already moving to something else. The center is not here. The center is there. In my lifetime, there is where. We need a better word, right? Better word than space. Creativity, creative people invent the language to describe emergent realities. Nietzsche said original thinking is seeing about 10 seconds faster than everybody else what's coming up over the horizon and giving it a name. Naming these realities, what you just exemplified, is exactly the task that confronts us, which is how to puzzle through what to say about these things that don't make sense. And it's not a trivial task. Do you know astronauts? I mentioned Edgar Mitchell, right? Astronaut? Okay, do you know that we used to have aeronauts? You know what aeronauts did? They were people who got on a plane and let it take them somewhere. In the 1920s, the only way we had some planes flying around America after World War I were the United States government subsidized taking mail in those planes from one place to another. And people would sometimes get on the plane and ride with the mail, and they were called, very daring, adventuresome types, aeronauts. And the government wanted to lower the subsidies and start to make the planes get more money from other sources. And so it said, we need a better term than aeronaut. We need something that people could see themselves being. So they had a little contest. You know what word they came up with? Passenger. That's right. Passenger. Now to you it sounds, well, everybody knows what a passenger is. But 2 seconds before it won, nobody knew it. Everybody knows what an astronaut is. It's a special person with great capabilities, 1 in a billion. You know, but we need, well, Buzz Aldrin came to Milwaukee. We need space tourists. We need space hotels. We need to change the interface so you and I can see ourselves going up there without a $10 or $20 million to pay the Russians to get a suborbital flight, some damn thing. You know, and soon we will have. We need other names. Well, just look out. Look back 100 years, then look out, and amplify it by genetic engineering and re-engineering our subjective space and our physical capabilities and our intelligence, and combine that with the interplanetary world that's coming and with the transforming power of technologies that are converging not only in appliances and networks, but in us. You know that. Not only wearable, but chips in our heads. That was one of the ideas that came out of a Strange Ideas meetings 10 years ago at Motorola, a chip in the head. When I suggested to people, people laughed because it sounded crazy. And now we've got implants, right? And the guy's learning to move the cursor. And pretty soon it'll be like, you mean a chip in your heart, a pacemaker?